Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging straight into a recent, very high-profile case. It's been an incredibly gut-wrenching legal saga, really, that gripped the nation. We're talking about the sentencing of Bryan Kohberger for the brutal murders of 4 Idaho college students. And for this deep dive, our mission is, well, it's to move beyond just the headlines. We want to unpack not one, but 2 pretty profound why questions that came out of this tragedy.
Right.
We're drawing on an opinion piece from the Arizona Republic. It's titled Idaho Murders, A National Obsession Explained by Bill Goodigans.
And it's interesting how the source immediately frames it around those 2 whys. We'll explore both with you. The first one, and it's maybe the most haunting, is why.
Yeah.
Why did Bryan Kohberger commit these horrific murders? And as we'll get into, that central question is still, well, it's largely unanswered.
Right.
And the second why, which is just as compelling, maybe it's more about us, about you listening, why did you find this case so captivating, so incredibly difficult to turn away from?
That collective fascination.
Exactly. That's a big part of what we want to try and understand today.
Okay, so you've laid out these 2 core why questions. Let's start with the perpetrator side, because it really seems the sentencing itself, it didn't do much to answer that fundamental question of motive, did it? Can you maybe walk us through the actual crime and how the legal process unfolded, especially around that unanswered why?
Yeah, absolutely. So the grim facts are, back in November 2022, 4 young college students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, both 21, Xana Kernodle, 20, and Ethan Chapin, also 20, they were brutally murdered. And fast forward to just this past Wednesday, July 23rd, Bryan Kohberger, he pleaded guilty earlier on July 2nd.
Okay.
He sentenced to life in prison, no chance of parole. And the sentencing hearing itself became, well, the source calls it gut-wrenching TV.
The raw emotion was just palpable, wasn't it? What specifically about those victim impact statements made it gut-wrenching TV? Was it just how direct they were or something else?
Oh, it was definitely the directness, that and just the profound grief. You had Olivia Goncalves, Kaylee's sister, for instance. She looked right at Kohberger and demanded, "Sit up straight when I talk to you."
Wow.
And then she hit him with these raw questions like, did you know them? Did you approach them before you killed them?
Unimaginable to ask.
Right. And Steve Goncalves, Kaylee's father, he gave this incredibly powerful statement. He told Kohberger, and I'm quoting here, "The world's watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. In time, you will be nothing but 2 initials, forgotten to the wind." I mean, that kind of unvarnished fury and deep sorrow, it made it compelling, sure, but also really deeply uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So, despite that definitive sentence, life without parole, and all those powerful statements, that core question, why Kohberger did it, it's still just hanging there.
Yeah.
He didn't speak in court, which, okay, that's his right. But it left this huge void for everyone watching, right?
A massive void. And that public desire, that need for an explanation, it went pretty high up.
How so?
Well, it's striking. Even figures like former President Donald Trump weighed in on this exact question. He actually went on social media urging Judge Hippler to require some kind of explanation from Kohberger. He posted something like, "There are no explanations. There is no nothing." And then after the sentencing, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, she stated that if it were up to the current president, he would have, and this is a quote, "forced this monster to publicly explain why he chose to steal these innocent souls."
That's really interesting. What does this signify, do you think, when you have political leaders feeling the need to comment on the why of a specific criminal case like this? Does it point to maybe a broader societal expectation that the justice system isn't really set up to deliver?
I think that's a really crucial point. Judge Stephen Hippler certainly seemed aware of that expectation, maybe even grappling with it. He stated it plainly. What we don't know is why. And he said he deliberately didn't want to focus too much on it. His reasoning was it would give Kohberger a platform or relevance, as he put it.
Right.
He even questioned if Kohberger was capable of speaking the truth, even if he had spoken, which kind of highlights the limits, seeking emotional closure from a defendant in a legal setting.
Yeah.
It's not always possible.
Yeah.
The emotional toll was clear, though, even on the judge. His voice apparently broke when he addressed Kohberger directly. And he uses incredibly powerful imagery, saying, parents who took their children to college in a truck full of moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins.
Oh, that just hits hard. It really encapsulates the tragedy, doesn't it? The human cost.
It really does.
Which brings us, I think, directly to our second why. And this one, maybe it tells us more about us, about you listening. Why do we watch these heartbreaking proceedings? The source points out Wednesday's events were, quote, excruciating to sit through. Just one heartbreaking story after another.
Mm,
But what is it that makes us lean in even when it's so difficult? I mean, part of it, the curiosity factor, is surely the brutal nature of the crimes themselves. A break-in, savage murders,
yeah, the sheer horror.
and the number of young victims, of course. That always resonates.
And this case specifically had some really unique elements too, didn't it? Things that just amplified that intrigue, made it even harder to look away.
Hmm.
What do you think specifically made those details so compelling?
Well, the source calls it a weird detail, but the fact that Kohberger was a doctoral student in criminal justice, of all things,
Right, the irony is just, yeah.
it definitely added this layer of mystery, almost this twisted element. And then there was the delay in the arrest, remember? It took about a month and a half.
That fueled so much speculation.
Exactly. It kept the story simmering. And, like often happens with these high-profile crimes, there were just wild rumors spreading everywhere online. People get drawn into the narrative, even the parts that aren't, well, true.
And the media coverage certainly reflected that intense public interest. Cable news was absolutely saturated with the sentencing. Fox News, for instance, they stayed with the victim impact statements all morning long. John Roberts called it a horrid saga.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
CNN and MSNBC, they were dipping in and out constantly. And a CNN correspondent, Veronica Miracle, she even noted that Judge Hippler's disdain for Kohberger was, quote, really remarkable.
So it was tough viewing.
Very tough. As the source notes, it was difficult to watch, but at the same time, it was somehow hard to turn away.
That intense media focus, though, it brings us to a really crucial point the source makes. It sort of shifts the lens from this specific case to maybe our broader societal biases. The piece says it's impossible to ignore that the murders of white victims often generate more media coverage than those of people of color.
Yeah, that's a critical observation included in the source material.
What do you think are the underlying mechanisms there? How does that disparity in media attention connect with our collective fascination?
Well, it's a really complex issue, and the source raises it as something important to consider. It suggests, maybe, that our collective fascination isn't just about the horror of a crime itself. It might also be influenced by whose stories get amplified the most, whose lives are seen as maybe more newsworthy or relatable by the mainstream media landscape.
So it shapes which narratives become these huge national obsessions.
That seems to be the implication the source is putting forward, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely influences which stories grab hold of the public imagination like this one did.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it, about the stories we consume and the underlying currents that shape what gets our attention. I mean, what we saw playing out on live TV, it was truly unimaginable, just impossible even to really comprehend the depth of that loss.
Absolutely.
And while this particular chapter might feel closed now with the sentencing, the source predicts something, well, kind of inevitable, that another case, for whatever reasons make us tune in, will come along too soon, capturing the public imagination and taking the place of this one. It's like a cycle.
It does feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
A cycle of public fascination. So just to kind of wrap things up, this deep dive, we've really tried to explore those two central why questions surrounding the Idaho murders. First, the perpetrator's motive, which remains largely inexplicable, a void, really.
Yeah.
And second, our own collective compelling fascination with watching these kinds of events unfold, and maybe some of the broader issues that fascination touches on.
Exactly. And that leaves us and you with a final thought to maybe just mull over. What does this collective urge we feel to watch, to demand answers, even to witness such raw, painful emotion on screen, what does it reveal about us, about our own human nature? Is it about a desire for closure, or maybe a need to sort of grapple with the darkest parts of society from a safe distance?
Or maybe something else entirely.
Right. What does it truly say about the stories we choose to consume and why we choose them? Especially when, as the source suggests, another case is probably, inevitably, just around the corner waiting to capture our attention all over again.